little presentation because I'm a visual person personally, and I think, you know, a lot of other people are. So, Scott, I can just share my screen? Is that a thing?
Yeah, I think so. If not, let me know.
Okay. Oh no. Oh no.
It's okay. It's okay.
No, can you? Oh. All right. Sorry, my fiance is. What is it doing? Why is it doing that? Okay. I am going to admit something to you guys right out loud here. I've never done a PowerPoint presentation in my whole life.
Well, you're leveraging your creativity to its finest right now. That's great. Yeah.
And you know what? And I started from the wrong. All right. This is going really well so far. So I'll just start talking. My name is Sarah Pickett. As Scott mentioned before, I do operate under the name of Sarandipity, and I'm an astrologer. I have been teaching astrology for about 5 years. And I am a consulting astrologer. I'm Chicago based, in case you didn't guess from my name, the Chicago Astrologer. And I just really love astrology. I've been learning about astrology since I was a teenager, and I've really found I've really found a niche in teaching astrology to people who are curious about it. Basically, astrology just in general. I was listening to one of my favorite astrologers the other day, and he said that the word astrology translated from Latin means star speak. Or speaking the language of the stars, and I thought that was pretty neat. Anyways, today I wanted to sort of leverage my knowledge of astrology in a way that might assist people in accessing their creativity, because I was given to understand that was the focus of our couple day summit that Scott is valiantly guiding us through.
You got it. You got it.
So I'm really excited to share my astrological knowledge with you. And also, I'm all about stopping and answering questions as I go. So, you know, I might have a bunch of things that I'm ready to say, but my style of teaching is very much conversational. So that's why I asked Scott that we have sort of a conversation style thing happening. So here we go. We are going to talk about using your zodiac sign, the element of your zodiac sign, to assist you in unlocking your creativity. All right. I know how to advance. I did it. Oh my God. It's the little things, you guys.
You
So I believe that sort of the main thrust of this summit that we've been having is this idea that everyone has the capacity to be creative, and certainly astrology supports that. But one of the things that I think you probably have been talking a lot about over the last day and probably into tomorrow is about all the different ways in which we are creative, all the different ways in which we access our creativity, and utilizing your zodiac signs. Oh my gosh, element. There we go. Utilizing your zodiac signs element as a springboard for your creative potential, I think would be really, really helpful. So in this discussion, we're going to talk about how each of the different elements access their creativity, and how you might leverage that your zodiac sign's natural way of being creative in order to sort of springboard yourself into your own creativity. I'm approaching this from the viewpoint of folks who are totally green, totally new to astrology. So I'm going to be very elementary in my descriptions, and I'm hoping that that is helpful for you guys. So the general idea is that identifying with your element, the element of your zodiac sign, gives you some keys to your natural and creative rhythms. And it is important to note that your zodiac sign is actually a very small part of your zodiacal maintenance. Your zodiac sign is actually your sun sign, or the sign that the sun was transiting at the time of your birth. But we actually have every single one of the planets in a very specific spot in our natal chart that adds to our personal our personality, the way that we exist as humans. But not everybody is able to access that, and most people know what their sun sign is. So we are just going to focus on the sun sign, with me knowing full well that that is only a very small part of your personality. So take it all with a grain of salt. You may have I have an air sun, I'm a Gemini, but I have a lot of, thank you very much, Virgo planets. So I might be an air sign, but really when I think about the way that I interact creatively, a lot of the way that I manage that highly relates to a lot of the earth sign capabilities. So something to keep in mind as we go through the way that the different elements interact creatively. If you find that you identify more highly with another one of the elements, it's possible that that element is overrepresented in your natal chart. Okay, good. So there
Sarah, hold on a second. I'm so sorry to interrupt you, but
No,
we
you're fine.
lost the feed real quick to Facebook. So let me
Okay.
just set that back up. I'm sorry.
I am
Stop you
totally
right there.
happy to hold off for a moment. Does anybody have any questions so far while we're waiting?
Guess not.
Yes. Does your chart change over time? I had my chart made 20 years ago, and I guess it's time for a re-up. But
That's a fantastic question, and actually a little more nuanced than you might think. Your natal chart never changes. So the natal chart is basically a snapshot in time, and specifically the snapshot in time is related to the moment of your birth, seen from the perspective of where you were born. Excuse me. So just as we can't change that moment in time, so our natal chart itself does not change. A couple of things related to that. Number one, different astrologers have different perspectives on charts and how they're set up. So getting an additional set of eyes, another astrologer to take a look at it, is never a bad idea. Think of it a little bit like when you go to the doctor and you're getting a second opinion from somebody else, right? Like that doctor might have a different expertise that might tell you a little bit more about what they're looking at. The second part of that is you do have a chart called a progressed chart, which progresses all of the planets. And that chart shows it shows the process of maturation. Even though we never lose sight of our natal placements, we do mature and change our perspectives on who we are and how we interact with the world. And the progressed chart is a reflection of that.
Cool. Sarah, thank you so much for your pause there, but we're back online. So whenever you're ready to go back.
Welcome back, Facebook friends. Cool. All right. Thanks for that question, Robert. That was a good one. So here we go. The 4 elements of the zodiac are reflective of the 4 elements that we see in nature: water, fire, earth, and air. And these elements kind of exist on a yin and yang axis. So in case you're curious about which your sign is, excuse me, the earth and water signs are on the yin axis, and the air and fire signs are on the yang axis. When we think about yin and yang as far as qualities of energy, yang tends to be a more outward moving, expressive, outgoing, extroverted energy, whereas yin tends to be an inward moving, introverted, reflective energy. As that relates to creative process, it's possible that yang signs, or fire and air signs, are much more creative when they are in a group situation, in an interactive situation, situations in which there are people to sort of guide each other through the creative process, whereas yin signs have a tendency to enjoy their alone time, to need the time to unplug and process, and therefore do not enjoy those interactive experiences quite as much. So in case you're unsure of which is which, our fire signs, our 3 fire signs, they're called the triplicities, these elements. Uh-oh. I need to move it. There we go. So the 3 fire signs are Aries, Leo, and Sagittarius. Aries people, if your sun is in Aries, you would have been born in late March or early April. If your sun is in Leo, you would have been born in late July, early August. And if your sun is in Sagittarius, you would have been born in late November, early December. Fire signs as a group, we mentioned before, are yang oriented. They're outward, they're expressive, they're they like to be at the beginning of things. They like for things to be exciting. They like to have their passions engaged. One of the things that I was thinking that might help fire signs be creative is to get physically active. So if a fire sign feels stuck, getting out and mixing it up, but really moving your body around and getting the blood flowing can be really helpful for fire signs. Leo specifically is actually rules the heart. So getting your physical heart pumping to move the blood through your body is really, really nice for fire signs. Fire signs are also motivated by competition. Fire signs like to know that they're the best. They also like to know what part of the line they're in. Are they first? Are they last? But no matter what, even if they're first, a fire sign likes to be the best first. Even if they're last, that gives them more motivation to get into the groove. What can be really important for fire signs is to reward themselves. Sometimes fire signs have a tendency to burn through all of their fire. And one way to keep their fires burning is to get that reward, whether that be a recognition for a job well done, or some sort of treat that they give themselves afterwards. And I think it's important to remember that for fire signs, they have to give that to themselves. They do tend to look outwardly for that appreciation. And fires, no matter how big or small they are, if they run out of fuel, they'll stop burning, right? So if fire signs can learn to fuel themselves, they will burn for longer, if that makes sense. My fiance encouraged me to use some examples. So one example that I could use is Lady Gaga. Lady Gaga is actually in Aries, and she finds her inspiration, her creative inspiration, from visualizing what's ahead of her. And I find that to be a very Aries kind of thing. Aries and also all fire signs tend to be forward facing and forward thinking. So continuing to envision what lies ahead of you can be a very a great thing for fire signs to keep them going. Earth signs, my earth friends. So earth signs have a love of structure and form. We might think of earth signs as relating directly to the earth. And in fact, I kind of interviewed some of my students to get some ideas of what their creative process is like. And I had a Virgo student tell me that actually connecting and communing with nature in some way helps for her creative process to move along. So certainly finding your way to nature. Earth is that yin, inward moving, unpluggy type of energy. So, finding ways to be on your own, finding ways to be not attached to anything is really important, but they do love structure and form. So creativity can be spurred by planning, by cleaning your space, by organizing your space. But even organizing the clutter that's happening in your mind can be really useful for earth signs. Having a really firm picture of the end goal. Fire signs can just keep moving through, but earth signs need to know what is the purpose. So as long as you know as an earth sign what your purpose is, what your end goal is. For instance, in writing, when you know what the end of the story is going to be, it makes writing the rest of the story a lot easier. And that's a really good process for an earth sign. Kate McKinnon, I don't know if you're familiar, but she's on SNL and she does a lot of comedy movies. She is a Capricorn and she locks herself in her costume in the costume room until she comes up with a character, right? So this idea of having her having those physical things around her that spurn her creativity, she just puts on hats until she finds a character, I think is very, very earthy, very related to the earth sensibilities. Air signs. Look at these ladies. They know what's up. Oh, I didn't, you know what? I did not talk about the, okay. Good for me. Earth signs. There we go. Taurus. Taurus is late April, early May. Virgo is late August, early September, and Capricorn is the season we are in currently. And it goes from late, there you go, Scott, late December into early January. And it's funny, I was thinking about that a little bit, Scott, as you were talking, because only a Capricorn would be like, what would be great is if I did this for 2 days straight. That would be good.
I'm totally thinking that maybe this was a line because it's like, right, I'm in my sign right now, right? I'm January 12th. So like, I'm thinking that's why Creative Year Ever is this time of year, because it's like, it's in my element, right? So.
Yes, it is in your element. All of the astral energies are supporting your endeavor here. Okay, so air signs. Air signs are Gemini, Libra, and Aquarius. Gemini, my fiance and I are both air signs, so he's very excited that we're here now. Gemini happens at the end of May and early June. Libra is at the end of September, early October. I know it happens after September. And Aquarius is the end of January into early February. Air is related to the mind, communication, being social, just in general. Air is their natural habitat, is their mind, is their intellect, is theory, possibility. Good conversation for air signs is really a great way to spark creativity. So I find whenever I am stuck, I pull my fiance into the room and I'm like, hey, can we talk this through? And him being another air sign is like, yes, let's do that. Right. So anytime I'm stuck, having a conversation with a trusted friend is a good way for me to go. Collaboration or a space to share insights can really get an air's motor running. So stuff like this, summits or groups, or I'm on Meetup and I have a Meetup group for astrology. So, bringing people together to discuss a topic, doing it in a collaborative way, that is what really helps air signs out. Again, air is on the yang side, so being extroverted and doing things with others is really what helps air signs get to where they're going. David Bowie was actually an Aquarius, and the way that he would write his songs, he actually wrote a computer program that would randomize words, and it would just put sentences together randomly with random words. And I don't know if you've ever really listened to his lyrics, but they're almost nonsensical, but he'll just write a whole song around this nonsensical sentence that was put together by this randomized computer generator. And I just think it's very Aquarius. Aquarius likes to deal with technology. It likes things to be weird and different. And for that to be his way of sparking creativity, I think was really, really cool. And finally, we've got our water signs: Cancer, Scorpio, and Pisces. Cancer happens at the end of June and beginning of July. Scorpio happens at the end of October into the beginning of November. And Pisces happens at the end of February into the beginning of March. Water signs are actually motivated by emotion. They are very in touch, not only with their own feelings, but with the feelings of people around them. So they tend to be extremely sensitive to their surroundings, whether that's people, whether that's art, or just objects in their surroundings. They need their surroundings to be peaceful in order to be productive. So making sure for a water sign that they have their own space that nobody else is allowed to be in or out of. So privacy and their own space is really, really important, because the sense of safety to create is really, really important. Using creativity in order to express their feelings is really nice. Generally speaking, water signs tend to feel all the time. If you think about a cat and their whiskers, the way that they get a sense in the dark of their surroundings is by these sort of feelers that they have coming out of their face, right? So you think of water signs as having emotional whiskers, and they can just feel everything that's around them. So having that space to sort of be on their own and feel it in their own separate space is very important. Allotting time to be truly alone and unwind. Again, water signs are on the yin side of the on the yin side of the spectrum, and water signs especially need time to unplug and be not part of the grind. That's very, very important. Water signs also have access to pretty broad imagination, and unlike earth signs that really like that structure and that form and the border, allowing water signs to sort of push their horizons is the way for them to become more productive and creative. Dr. Seuss was actually a Pisces, and he wrote that his creative process was three-pronged: see, imagine, and be. See your characters, imagine their worlds, and really be inside of them in that world. And I thought that was pretty great. I wanted to cap off the part of this where I am talking. Bad transition, Sarah. By talking a little bit, I didn't mean to do that.
No.
Here. Talking a little bit about things that can become counterproductive. Things that can be counterproductive as each of the elements, right? So what are some weaknesses for each of the elements, and how can you sort of combat those weaknesses? For fire signs, we talked a little bit about this earlier, the tendency to overdo it. Fire signs get really excited. Scott's wife is a fire sign, so I'm sure he knows about that. They get all excited, they throw all of themselves into a project, and then all of a sudden they have burned themselves out and just don't have the energy to continue.
She's here.
Oh,
don't talk about her too much. No, I'm kidding.
No, she knows. Heather knows. So giving yourself, as a fire sign, giving yourself time limits. I get to be excited about this for the next 24 hours, and then I have to stop and refuel my own fire, right? No matter how good you're feeling, stick to your time limits, because if you stick to your time limits, you will find that you'll be able to burn that fire for longer. For earth signs, earth signs have a tendency to be narrow-minded, to be goal-oriented, to once they get on a track, they tend to stay on that track. So building in breaks is also useful for earth signs. However, earth signs, there's this idea of like a workhorse, right? The horse doesn't know when to stop. You have to tell the horse to stop. If you give an earth sign, if you frame it for the earth sign as taking the break as a big picture break, right? Because as earth signs are plodding along in that path that they're on, there's a tendency to not see the big picture, where the project is, where it's going, is it on the right track, right? So for taking a moment to step outside of the work that you're doing to make sure that everything is in that big picture can be really, really useful for earth signs. Uh-oh.
What's the matter?
I didn't do one for air. Oh, there's the air sign one.
How could you forget us?
How dare you? Okay, for air signs. Air signs have a tendency to live in their minds. We have a tendency to be all thought, no action, right? We like to conceptualize, we like to philosophize, we like to think about what is going to happen and how it's going to happen. But when it comes to putting the boots to the ground, that's where we start to have some trouble. So, personally, I find that calendars are very, very useful for me. Saying, all right, I allow myself such and such amount of time for brainstorming, but after April 1st, the brainstorming is done and the action is happening. Also, making myself accountable to other people. I signed up for the Creative Year Ever Facebook page, and the first thing it asked me is if I wanted an accountability partner. And again, with air signs, that social component becomes very important. So I think that for air signs, having that accountability partner is really important. Whenever I voice something that I intend on doing, after it leaves my face, I'm like, okay, well, now I have to do it because I told somebody I was going to do it, right? So putting putting those thoughts out into the space, having a partner that's accountable, that you're accountable to, and giving yourself space for the brainstorming, because that's important, and that's a part of the process that air signs really enjoy, but also making yourself accountable for following up on those ideas. All right. And last but not least, we have our water signs, who are perfect in every way. I'm just kidding. No, there's Robert got so excited. For water signs, there is a tendency to be distracted by emotion. Making sure to give yourself time for the deviations. I have a watery moon, so I am very familiar with being swept away with emotion. And I find that as an air sun, if I don't give my emotions space to breathe and space to exist, then I incapacitate myself for the near future. And I can only imagine what it must be like for a water sun. So giving your emotions the time and space that they need to breathe, I think can actually spurn your creative abilities. I think there might be a tendency for water signs to get upset with themselves for being unfocused. And if you do that, you can induce a shame spiral, right? Where you're mad because you're unfocused, and you're unfocused because you're mad, and then you're mad because you're unfocused. So taking a minute to hit the pause button on the shame spiral, diagram the feelings, right? What is it that I'm feeling and why? Once you find the source, then you can start to resolve the feelings. And then maybe you will have given yourself some creative food to feast on later. Yeah. And forgive yourself. Water signs are so hard on themselves. It's okay to get carried away every now and then. But if you forgive yourself, then you give yourself the ability to let it go. I also said, maybe journal about the experience. Again, from the point of view of using those emotions towards your creativity later. So that is my little speech for you, my friends. I am ready to have a conversation and or field any questions that anybody has about the creative power of the Zodiac.
Thank you so much, Sarah, for sharing that information. I think that was highly valuable. And we had lots of positive feedback, both in the live stream and in the comments in the meeting here. So thank you. I really appreciate
Oh, that's great
that.
news.
Yeah. So anybody here in the VIP chat would like to share any questions? This is a great time.
No question too small.
Tina has a question. How do you know which sign to go by? My daughter is January 20th, and there's a different people say Capricorn and some say Aquarius.
That's a great question. Thank you for that question. Cusp, people that are born on the cusp do have a difficulty with knowing which way that they lean. My fiance is on the cusp of Libra and Virgo, and honestly, looking at your chart is the best way to find that out, because if you look, you will see that there's what's called the personal planets. So the inner planets that move more quickly will tend to sort of group around the sun and can lean your tendencies one way or the other. However, I would really encourage Tina, was it? Sorry.
Mm-hmm.
I would encourage Tina to have an open conversation. Do you feel more, did we say on the cusp of Capricorn and Aquarius?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Does your daughter rely more on her ability to be goal oriented, or is she more community oriented? Or Is she a little bit of both? Does she do her goals involve helping out her communities, right? Because there is a possibility that they kind of just bleed over and support each other.
That's a good point.
Awesome.
Interesting.
Glenn.
So Brett said, I know this may sound strange. That's okay, Brett. But hey, I'm a triple fire.
There you
It's
go.
okay to hit. Is it okay to hit publish for a post or article during a void of course moon? I would have to leave you on that one. Yeah.
Oh, you know, it's so funny that you asked that, Brett, because I was working on my horoscopes. In case you are interested, I do horoscopes on my Facebook page, Serendipity.
Let's do it.
Yeah. And I was just looking at the void of course. There's a 36-hour void of course moon. I'm not sure if that's the one you were thinking of, but I was like, 36 hours. That's incredible. That's a lot of time for the moon to be void of course. In case for everyone else who does not know what void of course moon is, it means that the moon is actually not making any aspects to any other planets. So void of course is like, the moon is just kind of floating around, not having any sort of direction or conversations with any of the other planets, and therefore is kind of only doing what it's doing, which is sort of unnatural for the moon because the moon moves so quickly that it's constantly making aspects to other planets. This void of course moon in particular, Brett, is going to be in Aquarius. And I think I would counter your question with what is the post about? Because if it's Aquarian themed, then I mean, smash that send button, right? If it is not, then maybe take a pause on that one.
I've always heard that it's not good to to hit finality during the void of course. Like, you don't want to sign the dotted line.
No, I get that.
Trying to be creative, but not to hit So that's why I get always stuck. I'm like, damn, it's void of course.
Yeah, I always that opens up a really interesting conversation because, you know, as a Gemini, Mercury retrogrades tend to be very difficult times for me, but I can't stop living my life when Mercury goes retrograde. You know what I mean? Like, I can't, if I need to move during a Mercury retrograde, which means I need to sign a lease, like, what can I do, right? If a contract comes up during Mercury retrograde, I got to sign that contract. What can I do? There was a day in September, I think it was in September, as I was doing my daily horoscopes, I was like, oh, this is going to be a terrible, terrible day. I was like, I'm not going to do anything. I'm not going to make any plans. I'm just going to sit in my house underneath the covers and just pretend like I'm a hermit. And that day I ended up having a root canal. So I think that you can try to avoid and or work with the planetary energies as much as you want, but you know, life comes at you no matter what. So I find that when I'm trying to plan something during a difficult astrological moment, I really think about that astrological moment by itself, which is why I said, like, since the void of course is happening while the moon is in Aquarius, it can't be in Aquarius. I'll have to look it up. But if you look at where the moon is at that moment, and if you're doing something that aligns with the moon's energies, the moon is expressing at its height in that energy. Since it's void of course, that's all it gets to do. And if you're aligning with that energy, 100% you should do it. If it's not lining up with that energy, maybe hold off until the moon comes back into, the moon comes back into some aspects.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
You got it.
Thank you, Brett. Hey, I just want to say one thing too, Sarah. For those of us who are not maybe like I'm a as everyone knows already now, I'm a Capricorn, right? I'm not a Gemini, I'm not anything else. But sometimes I feel like those tips could be good for all signs. Do you think that's true or maybe not? What do you think of
Yeah,
that?
no, absolutely. What's happening in the sky, they're called transits. So what's happening in the sky is happening the same, like it's happening for everybody. What's specific to it is how it's happening to your chart, right? So for instance, Scott, you mentioned that your birthday is coming up on the 12th.
Yep.
Yeah, so what is going to happen for you in that moment, everybody's going to have the sun at, that degree of Capricorn on that day. But what's special for your chart is that it's returning to the degree that it was at the moment of your birth. And so in astrology, birthdays are very important because it's when the sun, it's called a solar return. When the sun comes back to that spot is a very important moment for you astrologically. So while that's going to affect you in a very specific way, it's literally your time to shine, right? The sun is highlighting yourself. It's highlighting it. People who like their birthdays, I really love my birthday, but people who like their birthdays is because they enjoy that spotlight coming onto them and saying, okay, this is that time that we are shining the spotlight on myself. And I get to express myself in a very, a way that makes me feel good. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It should be a celebration of the self. Some people don't enjoy celebrating themselves, which might be why they don't like their birthdays. And that's, everybody has their different way of being. So all that is to say, while the sun is in Capricorn, we do have that tendency to sort of put our nose to the grindstone. Part of it is because it's darker earlier, we're home more, right? So we have that tendency to remember what that work is that we have to do. But for you specifically, that sun there is going to be a highlight in your own natal chart.
Awesome. Maybe a good day for me to create some live video content, right? If I want to celebrate myself, yes.
Yes. Perfect. 100%. Yeah.
Excellent. Hey, I just wanted to give a little shout out here. I posted it in the chats on both the live stream and on the Facebook group. But you have a wonderful meetup group, and I thought I would share it. Yeah, lots of members, and it looks like you've got amazing events coming up. So I just thought I would give a little shout out to your meetup group. So meetup.com/Chicago Astrology Study Group with hyphens in there.
I have an intro class coming up on Friday. So if you are brand new to astrology and really want to look at, an intro class, that's on Friday.
Interesting. Yeah, I may be there. You may see me. So
that would be so cool.
Yeah. So ultimately, it looks very affordable, $10, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's great. And also, I wanted to mention that I forgot what I was going to say. So I don't. The universe doesn't want me to say that one. Yeah, but no. Stick around, everyone. We're obviously here. Sarah would be happy to take any questions.
Joan has a question. Recent planet separation with Mars and Saturn. Sorry, I didn't get a chance to see that.
Oh, sure. Joan, can Sarah comment on the recent planet separation with Mars and Saturn, the grand conjunction that just happened? I think those are the right planets.
Yeah, I have been talking about the grand conjunction for a while, and actually I have a class coming up on that on the 14th.
Mm-hmm.
On the 14th. Wow. So Jupiter, Saturn, and Pluto have been sort of dancing around each other for the last year. It started back in January, and a lot of astrologers are saying that was the signature for the pandemic, because specifically Jupiter and Pluto conjunct are indicators of plagues. And I did not predict a plague. I definitely predicted a market constriction, a heavy market constriction. But I didn't know it was going to be due to a plague. But the Jupiter, Saturn, and Pluto kind of moving apart and coming together and moving apart and coming together have been related to our lockdowns, right? As the lockdowns have gotten easier and more difficult and easier and more difficult. That's been a relationship that astrologers have made. The grand conjunction that everybody was talking about is really the reason that people are excited about it is because Jupiter and Saturn actually came the closest together than they have in, I think it was said like 600 years, right? So that was really exciting, not only for astrologers, but also for astronomers. And also like just looking at the sky, right? Just seeing that with your eyeballs is pretty intense and pretty great. Part of the excitement in the astrological community has to do with a couple of different factors. The first factor is that Jupiter and Saturn moving into Aquarius and finally moving out of Capricorn has been what we've all been waiting for as far as like finally getting some relief from this pandemic. So the day, I think a day or two before that happened, or right around that time, was when the vaccines started rolling out, right? So we started to experience some like hope and some separation from the effects of this pandemic and how things were going to start to get a little bit lighter for us as far as like the lockdowns are concerned. Obviously, it's going to take a while, both astrologically and what was I going to say? Both astrologically and also like physically, that rollout's going to take some time. And the separation of Jupiter and Saturn from Pluto is going to take a while. So that's number one. Number two is that Jupiter and Saturn have a 20-year cycle, a 20-year conjunction cycle. So the so Jupiter and Saturn conjoining at all over the last year was both the end of one cycle and the beginning of another cycle. So basically every 20 years, we start a new Jupiter-Saturn cycle. Those cycles are associated with breakthroughs, with new ways of doing things, with characterizing the next 20 years as far as how that's going to happen. The fact that it happened at the 0 degree of Aquarius is the signature for the cycle. So that means that, you know, we're looking at possibly a lot of scientific type breakthroughs for this 20-year cycle, because Aquarius is associated with science. But also, you know, us coming together as a community, as a society. Aquarius is all about the community, is about humanitarian things, about caring about everybody rather than just yourself. So those are some of the themes for the next 20 years. But finally, the Jupiter-Saturn conjunction is a is a wrap up of a 200-year cycle as well. For the last 200 years, we've been having Jupiter-Saturn conjunctions just in Earth signs. Well, not only in Earth signs, but mostly in Earth signs. And from now and for the next 200 years, those conjunctions are only happening in air signs. So that is another sort of shift that we're experiencing as a global community. Whereas previous to this time, there was a lot of emphasis on manufacturing, on sort of these earthy cycles of the physical. How can we change the physical in order to serve us? The new cycle is going to be all about air stuff, and we kind of talked about that a little bit. How do thoughts and ideas and community and being social, how does that serve us as a race, as a human race, right? So it's important to note that this isn't necessarily about things getting better or worse, but that there's going to be a tonal shift, our focus changing over the next 200 years. Yeah.
Wow. That's some really, really powerful and interesting information.
Yeah.
I remember what I was going to say. Your meetup group is not just in Chicago, right? You're virtual, so anyone who's joining us can join your meetup group, right?
That's a great point. Yeah, absolutely. Yep. Yeah.
Yep. So just wanted to put that out there. Sarah, you are fantastic. We have time for like one more question if someone wants to ask a question. Other than that, I don't go too far because it's 6 o'clock. We're gonna wrap up with one of my favorite speakers and presenters, Reno Levison. Reno and I go way back, but Reno is a power networker, man. If I know anybody who asks networking questions or to pick his brain, it's Reno. And Reno, I see you're on, Reno. Looks like you're frozen though. I know he's been having internet connection troubles, but ultimately, you want to know how to network. You want to know how to network in the new economy, the virtual economy. Reno is the guy to help us share some ideas in terms of how we're going to do this, right? How are you going to make way with when the hay is right there? So, Reno, you there?
You.
Yeah, go ahead.
Am I on?
You're on.
All right, Scott. I just want to. I didn't mean to step all over you, but I was working out my technology. So as you can see, my voice is on my phone.
Yep.
So be sure to keep my phone unmuted, okay?
I will.
If you do that. What's going to happen, unfortunately, is I've been monitoring this, and I'm having internet problems with Comcast. I've been on the phone most of the day with them to really no avail. But my internet has dropped off 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times in the last hour. And it only does it for like 30 seconds. But so what you all will see is just my phone, my picture freeze up. But if I talk on the phone as I'm doing now, I can continue to talk, and you'll continue to hear me.
Sure.
Does that sound like a plan?
Yeah, so
Sure.
it's 5:52, Reno. So we have a little bit of time. So don't go too fast, in case anyone's waiting to come on it.
I was mostly just wanted to work the technology part out. I hope
Sure.
I didn't step all over the end of your last meeting doing that. But
sure, Sarah, and I want to say, Sarah, let's give Sarah a big round of applause. Thank you so much for the presentation. Sarah. And I hope you can stick around, Sarah. But if not, thank you so much.
Yeah, and, I taught a class before this, and now I'm like ready to fall down.
I got you doing double time, I know. So yeah.
But yeah, I'm available. I do the group classes that you've seen. I have a Facebook group. I also do readings. I do natal chart readings. I do solar returns. I've started reading progressions. I do tarot readings too, I guess. So, yeah, I'd love to hear from you guys. It was super nice seeing you and meeting you, and I hope that information was helpful.
I know it was for me, so I'm sure other people will feel the same. We got lots of great feedback on both chats, so thank you so much.
All right.
And, yeah. Well,
have a good day.
See you later. Yeah.
Sarah, thank you.
Thanks, Sarah. Bye.